My boyfriend of 3 years constantly told me we needed to live strictly below our means so we could save up for a down payment on our first home together. Yesterday, I went to drop off his dry cleaning and found a premium membership card to an elite, invite-only golf club tucked inside his jacket pocket, showing he's been spending thousands a month on a secret social life. We just need to maintain this level of discipline for 12 more months. Chloe, my boyfriend Julian, had said, leaning over our dining room table as he adjusted his financial spreadsheets on his tablet. He reached across the clean laminate surface, placing his hand over mine. Think about the end goal: a mid-century brick home in the northern suburbs, a real backyard, zero high-interest debt, and complete financial security. Every dollar we don't spend on dinners out or weekend trips today is a square foot of our future tomorrow. I remember nodding, a deep wave of pride and reassurance washing over me. I am a senior forensic accountant for a regional corporate consulting firm. My entire professional existence is built around analyzing general ledgers, identifying hidden operational deficits, and auditing asset allocations for mid-sized businesses. I look for discrepancies behind closed doors from 9 to 5, but when I came home to our small, rent-stabilized apartment, I completely turned off my auditing mind. I wanted to be a supportive, trusting partner. Julian was an aspiring investment analyst, and his meticulous, strict dedication to our shared budget felt incredibly grounding. For 3 years, we lived strictly below our means. We instituted a firm no luxury purchases rule. We skipped anniversary trips, cooked basic meals at home every single night, and drove an older, economical sedan that needed a very specific touch just to start the engine. Julian tracked every single gallon of gas, every grocery receipt, and every streaming subscription down to the exact cent. I swallowed my personal desires, happily wore my older winter coats for a 3rd season, and directed a massive portion of my monthly salary straight into our joint, locked high-yield savings account. I fully believed we were a unified team, building a foundation from scratch. The absolute fragility of that unified team layout collapsed under the weight of a premium. Matte black plastic card at exactly 4:45 p.m. yesterday. Julian had rushed out of our apartment yesterday morning to catch an early commuter train for an out-of-town corporate seminar. In his haste, he left his charcoal wool blazer, the one he always wore to his high-profile client meetings, draped over the back of the entryway chair, completely forgetting that the local dry cleaners closed early on Thursday afternoons. Knowing he needed that specific suit pristine for an executive presentation the following Monday, I gathered the garment and headed down the street. It is standard etiquette to check the interior pockets of a luxury blazer before handing it over to a cleaning service to avoid damaging the lining or losing loose items. I reached inside the left breast pocket and pulled out a small, heavy textured cardboard sleeve. Tucked securely inside the sleeve was a custom, laser-engraved matte black titanium card. The gold embossed lettering across the face of the card didn't belong to a standard banking institution, a regional transit system, or a basic warehouse club. It read, "The Obsidian Crest Country Club, Executive Founding Member." Printed directly underneath the club's private coat of arms was Julian's full legal name, an active member identification number, and an issue date that matched the exact month we signed our very first joint apartment lease 3 years ago. My breath caught instantly in my throat. My professional training took over before my emotions could even register the shock. The Obsidian Crest wasn't a standard public golf course. It was an elite, invite-only luxury country club located in the private hills just outside the county line, a facility known within my accounting network for its $20,000 initiation fees and thousands of dollars in mandatory monthly food, beverage, and amenities spending. I stood in the middle of the local dry cleaning lobby, completely frozen as the automated garment racks whirred loudly behind the counter. My analytical mind began reconstructing the last 36 months of our relationship with terrifying, cold clarity. Julian had spent 3 years telling me that our household infrastructure was too fragile for any extra spending. He had watched me calculate the price difference between organic and generic groceries. He had explicitly asked me to skip my childhood best friend's weekend bridal shower out of state because the flight didn't align with our current structural goals. Yet, according to the official issue date on this titanium card, he had been maintaining a high-tier lifestyle asset the entire time. I thanked the dry cleaner, declined the service, and took the blazer straight back to our apartment. I sat down at my home desk, opened my personal secure portal, and began a comprehensive forensic overview of our joint accounts versus Julian's reported income, contributions, because we kept separate personal checking accounts and only pooled money for rent and the shared savings goal. I had never audited his individual capital distribution, but as an expert in corporate asset tracking, I knew exactly how to look at the macro data. I cross-referenced his firm's public corporate bonus announcements, which were standard industry knowledge, against the exact deposit amounts he had, brought to our shared ledger. The math was devastatingly simple. Julian hadn't been making less money during his last 2 promotions, as he had claimed. He had been quietly diverting his entire quarterly incentive structure and a massive portion of his base salary away from our house fund to finance a private, hidden social circle. He was funding fine dining, weekend tournament fees, and high-end networking events for himself, all while utilizing my salary to absorb the physical cost of our actual daily survival. When Julian returned from his seminar at 7:30 p.m., he was in an excellent mood. He walked into the kitchen, tossed his briefcase onto the counter, and began talking about a new budget-saving meal prep strategy he had read about on the train ride home. If we switch our bulk dry goods provider, Chloe, we can probably shave another $40 off our monthly allocation, he said enthusiastically, reaching into the refrigerator for a pitcher of water. I didn't answer. I remained seated at the dining table, where I had cleanly laid out his charcoal blazer, the cardboard card holder, and the matte black titanium membership card directly in the center of the table. Right next to the card, I placed a printed financial summary showing his exact income diversions over the last 3 years. Julian turned around, his smile freezing instantly as his eyes locked onto the black card. The color drained from his face so fast it was almost alarming. Chloe, he stammered, his hand hovering over the counter. Where did you find that? You went through my personal belongings? I checked the pockets of your suit blazer before taking it to the dry cleaners. Julian, I said, keeping my tone perfectly flat, using the exact neutral cadence I use when delivering an unfavorable audit report to a corporate board. And what I found is an unrecorded operational deficit in our relationship. You've been an active executive founding member at Obsidian Crest for 36 months. Julian stepped toward the table, his defensive reflexes immediately kicking in. He reached out to grab the card, but I placed my hand firmly over the printed financial summary. It's not what you think, Chloe, he argued, his voice rising slightly into a desperate, rapid register. That isn't a luxury expense. It's a career requirement. Do you know who plays golf at Obsidian Crest? The managing partners of the top 3 investment firms in the city. I secured 2 major client portfolios last quarter simply by being on those green blocks on Saturday mornings. I did this for us. It's a long-term investment in my corporate advancement. An investment is a transparent allocation of shared capital, Julian, I responded calmly, looking him dead in the eye. You didn't structure this as a career development asset. You structured this as a secret lifestyle. You watched me cut back on every personal comfort. You asked me to skip important milestones with my own family to save $100, and you used my financial discipline to offset your personal luxury hobbies. I slid the printed income diversion report closer to him. You didn't use firm business expenses to pay for this, I continued. You used the money that you swore to me was being safely held in your personal emergency fund for our future down payment. You prioritized a luxury social circle over the actual partnership we were actively building in this room. Julian looked down at the itemized spreadsheet, his arguments completely dissolving. He realized that trying to spin a financial narrative to a professional forensic accountant was entirely impossible. He sat down in the opposite chair, his shoulders slumping as the reality of his deception finally sank in. So what happens now? Julian asked, his voice dropping into a hollow, quiet whisper. Are we throwing away 3 years over a networking club? We aren't throwing anything away, Julian. I am simply closing a compromised account, I told him firmly. The trust required to build a future together has been completely drained. I will not spend the next 30 years of my life auditing my spouse's pockets to ensure basic financial honesty. I opened my laptop and initialized the immediate, authorized transfer of exactly half of our joint high-yield savings account back into my private personal checking registry. I didn't take a single dollar more than what I had personally contributed, but I didn't leave a single dollar less. The lease on this apartment is up at the end of next month, I stated, closing the laptop with a definitive snap. I will be contacting the management office tomorrow morning to file the formal notice of non-renewal. You can use your premium country club network to find your next housing arrangement. Julian looked at the table, completely silent, knowing there was zero room for emotional manipulation or empty promises. The data was clear. The boundary was set, and the audit was complete. This morning, I signed the paperwork for a bright, single-bedroom loft apartment closer to my corporate office. It doesn't have the mid-century brick design or the large backyard we used to talk about. But as I sat on my new balcony, sipping a cup of coffee, the air felt incredibly light. There are no hidden ledgers in my living space anymore. The boundaries are clean, the financial trail is entirely my own, and I am finally standing on my own solid ground.